Good morning. Today I must apologize myself because I'm on my way and I wanted to share some impulse talk on analysis with you nevertheless, because that's so easy nowadays, as I would talk to you in person. I mean, I'm here to answer questions every time, but I've pre-recorded this small video for you. Now, let's start right into it. Analysis. If generation is the motor, analysis is the compass. Here we see a previous work of ours where we did an analysis of a design studio, and in which every room is a node. You see the graph that appears here on the right side, and the linkages between rooms, as you have it in the functional diagram, are the edges of this graph. Now, the functional dependencies like closeness are depicted here, like 1 is close, 0.5 is average, 0 is really white, and -1 is functions should stay away. And if you think about it, then functions or rooms are the spatial equivalent of a social network. I mean, those topological relationships can be analyzed, in fact, with methods that are being used by Facebook and co. to get better advertisement to people. There are certain measures, yeah, you can get from this graph. Let's begin at the start, though. So let's see those measures. Yeah. Those measures. So you have certain centralities, which means there is rooms that act as a hub, which distribute people to a lot of other not so connected areas. This is betweenness and closeness. So betweenness says they are brokers, so you must pass through them. They are sort of connecting distinct areas of a building. Closeness, they are central to every part. That might not always be the case. Think of a large building that is split in between two building parts where there is a tunnel in the middle. This tunnel is highly in between all those two subgraphs, but might not be close to every part. Think, on the other hand, of a lobby that connects to every other area of the building in a central manner. This is close. So closeness is a statistical measure of how easily you can reach every other part of the graph. Degree centrality sort of corresponds to closeness and betweenness. It's easier to compute. It says that the higher number of edges a node has, the more important it gets. Why? Because there are many paths or many ways leading into that node. So it probably is very important. The same idea applies to eigenvector centrality. Eigenvector centrality is the notion that if I am connected to something that is highly important, then the probability of me being highly important is high. Even though I might not be well connected, I'm one hop away from a central hub. This eigenvalue analysis is an own mathematical theory. I will not go into details there, but it just says if you're connected to someone who is prominent, some of the prominence falls back on yourself. And this sort of is the main thing about it. Density, yeah. So how dense a graph is means how well connected everything is. So you can take the graph as a whole and see if we've got, for example, 3 nodes, and every node is connected to every other node. We have 1, 2, 3 edges. So this is then a fully connected graph. This is highly dense. On the other hand, a sparsely connected graph means that the whole thing is not very centralized, and you can sort of get to analyze where the core lies, in which parts of the graph or in which parts of the topology of a building lies the most density and which parts are really the outskirts, right? And then there are methods on graphs that say, let's cluster. Let's try to separate different building parts automatically. And I will show how that works in a minute. Just don't care about that so much for now. I will show you this graphically. Okay, here you have, there is a free program called Gephi, where one can analyze a room program or a functional program with weights, with adjacencies being the weights in that manner. So we have different node radiuses for their prominence. Here would be, yeah, some design studio acting as most as hub space, like everyone goes to that. It's a design studio as a whole, so the whole building serves that purpose. So it's certainly not astonishing that the space where work gets done is sort of the most connected or the most prominent in the sense that you can get there from every part. A coincidence is that there is some support, some technical stuff called mechanical that is well connected too. Yeah. Also, the design studio in our case was also connected to other prominent building parts like the principal's offices and so on. And if we cluster, we can get clicks, like things that are close together. I will later show some better graphics of that. Okay, and there's other software packages that are less graphical, but more, they have larger analysis things that you can do with them. Yeah, and we have written like a program that does this in a more graphical way. Now here's the program. Yeah, you analyze an adjacency matrix into a graph, and then you can click on one of those measures, and the thing will show you what you want to see in a very straightforward manner. Let's stop when we cluster. I think that's the most prominent example. Weak component clusters, things that are separated, where you forgot to sort of connect areas well, and so they sort of form two universes within the building. It seems that the service area that is serving all the, as like a hidden access to some rooms was not well connected, and everything else was in another cluster. So this is a clear hint. You forgot something. Maximal clicks. Here are the clusters that the program would automatically find. So like staff entry, parking, client entry would be one group for whatever reason. Principal's office, lobby, design studio, and client conference would be another part. It's highly interesting just to get a feeling what lies inside your data, right? Yeah, and then we have two clicks. If you have the biggest maximal click, we have a different separation. This is only to say you can do a lot of stuff with graphs, a lot of stuff. And to give you perhaps to give you a couple of other inspirations. Now, where do we have that? Yeah, probably that. So again, coming back to the fact that analysis is the daily bread, not only generation. You can let a simulation run that simulates the passage between different rooms being nodes, and you have intermediate nodes where the circulation lies, and you can then analyze how well the flow goes. You can make a graph that says, please show me where the people that were in that room were before and where did they go afterwards. Yeah, this is the intent of this paper. And what else do we got? Of course, you can also store or analyze where the people walked and what they did walk over. here's a school simulation in which we will see agents. And by the way, this is all work by us. Also, this is like a self-made. So there is agents running wildly about. You have some functional areas. What school is that? Graz, Algersdorf, open floor plan. And then you can get to an occupancy. I hope in the near future. So you record, so you split the space into cells and then you record simply count up by 1 if an agent passes over a certain spot, yeah, and you then have a heat map showing you the occupancy over time. If you show if you have the whole time range, this is the image. You can also go backwards from the analysis to the generation. You can use the graph first. You can say this is the topology, and then employ forces to distribute the graph in a spatial manner, sort of. And then you can sort of get to the point where you say, okay, this is a stable configuration, which you can then translate into a real design. More or less. And there is lots of different analysis methods running here, distances, variances, and so on. Yeah? So this is the force-based graph methods. What else? Oh yeah, and the obvious. Let's go to NetLogo. The obvious thing which we already encountered is space syntax, also graph analysis method. Where did I put that? Yes, no. No. Yeah, let's just go there. First of all, let us import some graph and then apply space syntax. And I will now give you an exact description of the method, since it's easier shown than told. So let's generate some random. Oh, no, it doesn't generate. We will generate in the next NetLogo program, I guess. We have some sketch, I don't know. We have to, oops, let's start again. We want to generate this circulation and perhaps do some additional circulations, secondary circulation. Okay, I think that's enough for the time being. Now, space syntax actual integration method. For every crossing of those lines, yeah, we now find the intersections between those lines. And those are the intersections, you see them here, drawn in black. And we connect intersecting lines, and we do the midpoints of each line. We depict here as node. And every line that intersects with another line, yeah, we connect by their midpoints. Okay, once again, you have lines, make midpoints, full stop. Take those midpoints, and wherever the line that the midpoint is for intersects, connect this to that midpoint. This is the so-called justified graph. Okay, and now you can count for this graph from one node, how much steps do I need to go to reach every other node? So let's make the sum, yeah? So to reach this node, I need 1. To reach this node, I need 1. Plus, to reach this node, I need 1. So this thing has a so-called depth of 3. from this node, I need 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. So the depth of this node is 5. So you know that those midpoints stand for a line. So now you can just delete the midpoints and just apply this depth to the line that it stands for. And since this depth, there is like, the maximal and the minimal depth, you can now color it. Yeah, the maximal with red, the minimal with green. And if you repeat that with more lines, you can also have some colors in between, as Bob Ross would say. Oh, it's awkwardly drawn. I'm sorry. Anyway, anyway, I didn't say it's going to be nice. In fact, I'm not adhering to my design at all. Let's just see that it looks funky. So find connections, compute depths, visualize them. That's what space syntax axial analysis does. And now let's visit the other space syntax method. Come on. So the other thing is called visibility graph analysis. Here we go. It's really not a graph method, and you will see why. You go from every pixel. So we generate a sketch automatically. Let's do that. We can generate configuration with rooms and circulation automatically. That's so cool. But we are not in generation, right? We are in analysis. And now we shoot some rays. Let me slow down the visualization. From every cell, we shoot in every direction as far as we can go. If we hit something, we stop. And we count the sum of those shooting distances in every cell. Let's do that. So you see, I'm shooting. So this is what happens. And it happens quite slow, I'm sorry. Okay, and if I turn off the view, it's a bit faster. So we are already in the middle. Okay. And now it will be slow again because it can shoot so far. We're in open space. And this is generally referring to the visibility. Now I have a sum in every one of those pixels. The sum is called depth, like here. And now I can simply map between the minimal and the maximal value for this depth and give it a color. And we see now that here are the most open spaces because you can look around very, very openly. And within those walls, we have like really confined visibility, or it's really private. You can, philosophize about that. So that's the visibility graph analysis method shown using a known program. Yeah, what else? I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do. And the difference between analysis and generation is not as strict, right? So here's this generation of sketches already implies some analysis, what to put where. A simulation of activities already implies some analysis where things should go, where things should walk. Acoustic simulation, wind simulation, always you can see it visualized here. This implies that you have analyzed it, visibilities from and to sites. or whatever you do. Flocking is the generation using some agents or some steepness analysis, drainage patterns, whatever we did in growth. Every time you do this, you have an analysis step. Okay, so I don't know. Clearly, the division is not as strict, but what I can say is that you will always need some to think on how to steer your boat. That's why I conclude with my end statement. Your generation is the engine, but the analysis is your compass. Thank you.